The Queen Mary was once the pride of the Cunard Line, a luxurious ocean liner that ferried passengers across the Atlantic in style and comfort. But today, the ship is known for something else entirely: its haunted history. The Queen Mary began its life in the 1930s when it was built in Scotland and christened by the wife of King George V. For decades, the ship was the pinnacle of luxury, transporting the rich and famous across the Atlantic in style. But in 1967, the ship was retired from service and moored in Long Beach, California, where it was turned into a museum and tourist attraction. It wasn't long before reports of ghostly encounters began to emerge. Visitors and crew members reported seeing strange apparitions, hearing unexplained noises, and feeling an eerie presence throughout the ship. Some claimed to have seen the ghosts of passengers and crew members who had died on board, while others reported encounters with a mysterious figure known as the Lady in White. One of the most well-known sightings on the Queen Mary involves a little girl named Jackie. According to legend, Jackie drowned in the ship's second-class swimming pool, and her ghost still haunts the area. Visitors have reported seeing wet footprints near the pool, hearing the sound of a child laughing, and feeling a cold breeze even on the warmest days. Another popular ghost story involves the ship's engine room, where a crew member named John Petter was killed in a tragic accident. Visitors have reported hearing unexplained noises and feeling a sudden drop in temperature in the area where Petter died. Some have even claimed to have seen his ghost, still wearing his boiler suit and cap. But perhaps the most famous ghostly encounter on the Queen Mary involves the Lady in White. Legend has it that a young woman dressed in a white gown haunts the ship's first-class pool area. According to some reports, she was a bride who died on board the ship during its service in World War II, while others claim she was a passenger who committed suicide after learning of her husband's infidelity. Regardless of the story, many people have reported seeing the Lady in White over the years. Some have even claimed to have had conversations with her, although she always disappears without a trace. One couple staying in the ship's first-class staterooms reported a particularly terrifying encounter with the Lady in White. They woke up in the middle of the night to find her standing at the foot of their bed, staring at them with empty eyes. The couple was so terrified that they fled the room and never returned to the Queen Mary. Despite these eerie encounters, the Queen Mary remains a popular tourist attraction and hotel. Visitors can take ghost tours of the ship, stay in one of its many haunted staterooms, and even attended paranormal conferences and events. But not everyone is convinced that the Queen Mary is truly haunted. Some skeptics claim that the reports of ghostly encounters are simply the result of an overactive imagination, or that they can be easily explained by natural phenomena or creaky old ship noises. However, others argue that there is something truly otherworldly happening on the Queen Mary. Whatever the case may be, the legends and stories of the Queen Mary continue to fascinate and terrify those who dare to explore the ship's haunted history. And with new reports of ghostly encounters emerging every year, it seems that the Queen Mary's reputation as one of the world's most haunted places will continue to endure. In fact, the ship has become such a popular destination for ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts that it has been featured in numerous TV shows and documentaries, including Ghost Adventures and The Most Haunted. But for those who dares to brave the Queen Mary's ghostly reputation, there are still plenty of thrills to be had. From the eerie silence of the empty staterooms to the unexplained noises echoing through the ship's deserted corridors, the Queen Mary is a place where the supernatural and the mundane collide. As you wander the darkened hallways, you can't help but wonder if there really is something lurking in the shadows. Perhaps it's the ghost of a long-dead passenger, or maybe it's just your imagination running wild. Either way, the Queen Mary remains a place of mystery and intrigue, a ghostly journey across the Atlantic that will leave you with a newfound appreciation for the unknown. So if you're feeling brave, book a stay on the Queen Mary, take a ghost tour, and explore the ship's haunted history for yourself. Who knows what ghostly encounters you may have, or what supernatural secrets you may uncover on this ghostly journey across the Atlantic.